Now, I don't know about any of you, but for me, being a mother of 3 teenagers, a wife, a business owner, an employer, I find that somehow communication is a very challenging thing. I think I said one thing, somebody else heard it one way, 3 other people heard it a different way. But if you've ever read the book Blink by Malcolm Gladwell, he talks about communication really coming from here. That we think it comes from here, but in our gut, we know exactly in the first 30 seconds, and he documents it, what we know is right and what we know is wrong. Has anybody read Blink? A few hands. So, you know, once I read that book and I started thinking about it, I thought, wow, that happens to me a lot of the times. From here I know, but then here I dispute what I know from here, right? So in communication, it's a very challenging thing. It's a very tricky thing. So Rita Mulcahy says that we have to clarify, we have to listen well. Actually, she didn't say that, I did. But we have to manage relationships, which is very tricky. Negotiate patiently. Resolve issues and conflicts. Provide feedback and support. And do all of this in a way that holds their interest. It's a tall order, it really is. And then that's just your job. Then you go home to the rest of your life. So it's a project management, in my mind. I have so much respect for project and program managers because they're, you know, constantly doing things that are challenging them that are very important to their companies on so many different levels. So a passage that I read from Mark Salzman is something that I hope resonates for you. It really, I think, is funny and also very indicative of communication and how we have to really stay on our toes when we communicate because it's very easy to bore people. And you're a tough crowd, so I hope I'm not boring you. But I wanted to make this as interesting as possible. So he's at this big event, and he's going to hear the speaker speak. It's like a conference like this. So it's October 1st, China's National Day. The Provincial Foreign Affairs Bureau arranged a banquet for all the foreigners living and working in Hunan. Prior to the banquet, our host, a high official within the provincial government, held a meeting at which he gave us a brief overview of current political, economic, and social issues affecting the province. This brief review, translated a sentence at a time into English, turned out to be a very lengthy recitation of statistics, all showing remarkable growth, interspersed with firm declarations of purpose and goals for the year 2000, and conclusive evidence that these goals would be met. The official, completely still as he delivered this speech, moving his lips only as much as he had to, except at the end of the paragraphs when he pulled them open to smile. Shaking his head from side to side so that the smile fell upon all members of the audience equally. I mean, imagine hours of this. After 2 hours, the translator showed signs of fatigue. Something about striving from victory to victory was translated as, and the broad collective masses by means of leadership of the Chinese blah, blah, blah. So no one experienced fatigue more than the audience, however. A Chinese man sitting next to me had been dozing quite a long while, freely, since the first hour of the speech. He opened his eyes during the third hour to reach for his teacup and noticed me looking at him. He had extremely thick glasses, a bloated face, and a few beads of sweat on his forehead that he wiped with his handkerchief. He stared at me with no expression on his face whatsoever for a very long time, then suddenly asked me what I thought of the meeting. I said I thought it was boring, too long, and repetitious. His face did not change at all, and he continued to stare at me. That is because you were listening. And he went back to sleep. So, you know, I mean, we've all been in meetings where you want to take a snooze. So it's up to the project manager, the program manager, to be the leader, to be concise, to communicate the vision, and to do it in a way that engages the team. In a memorable way that engages and inspires. Because so much of life is just not inspiring. And if you're going to spend 8 to 12, 13 hours a day at work, it would be so nice to be inspired. And I find that the project managers that we work with, that I work with, that I've been on projects with, you know, from a client perspective, the ones that are really brilliant and kind and humble and sensitive to their teams and take the time to communicate in a way that's engaging have a lot of success. So I thought that this was a little funny story about keeping your audience awake.